Good evening, everybody, and welcome to 13 Now. I'm News 13's Amy Hoyt. We're coming to you live from our newsroom on Harrison Avenue in downtown Panama City. With less than 2 weeks to go until the runoff election on May 16th, we wanted to introduce you to some of the candidates. In the city of Lynn Haven, 2 men are vying for your vote to be the next city commissioner for Seat 1, and I'd like to introduce them to you now. On my right, your left, is Brian Gray. And on my left, your right, is Sam Peebles. Gentlemen, thank you so much for accepting our invitation tonight.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Before we get started with questions, we want to go over the rules. I will ask each of you the same question, starting in alphabetical order, and then we'll alternate. You each get 1 minute to answer. Our digital online reporter, Coram Byers, who you can't see on camera, is a timekeeper sitting behind us. He'll let you know when you have 15 seconds left and then when your time is up. If I have a follow-up question to something you say, you'll get 30 seconds to answer. And if you have a rebuttal for something your challenger has to say, you'll have 30 seconds and then 30 seconds to respond. So, gentlemen, let's begin. We want to start with a 1-minute introduction so you can introduce yourself to the voters, and we'll start with Brian Gray.
Thank you, Amy. I'm Brian Gray, and I'm putting my application to work for you, the citizens of Lynn Haven, to represent you on Seat 1. My main objective is for trust, transparency, ethics, and checks and balances. I've been a resident of Lynn Haven since 1965. I'm retired from the Florida Army National Guard Infantry Unit, 31 years, retired from the Florida Probation Office, 24 years, and I'm currently a licensed mental health counselor with the Veterans Administration. I look forward to putting all my skill sets to work for you. I also have a master's in clinical applied psychology, divinity, and theology. And I have a lot of life experience to bring to the table, and I really hope that the voters, if you have any questions, please give me a call. Visit my Facebook page, Gray for Bay. Be happy to talk to anybody anytime, and I really look forward to serving the citizens of Lynn Haven.
All right, Mr. Gray, thanks. Sam Peebles.
First, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. I am a third-generation citizen of Lynn Haven. I grew up next to my grandparents. I've loved this city. I loved it so much that my wife and I decided to move back here after my time active duty Air Force. I have 12 years combined experience between active duty Air Force and Florida Air National Guard. I also have a background in risk management, which I think it will be an excellent tool for helping the city with issues with flooding and other things like that. I just want to do everything I can to possibly help. I have a master's degree in cybersecurity and a bachelor's degree in information technology. I also have 2 associate's degrees. I'm also an educator by nature. I teach at the college as part-time as an adjunct at Gulf Coast State College, and years ago I taught as a paraprofessional after-school teacher at Patterson Elementary School. I look forward to these questions. It's going to be fun.
All right. Thank you both very much, and appreciate both of your service. You're both veterans. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's start with affordable housing. What does that mean, and how will you attract developers to build homes in Lynn Haven? And alphabetical, Brian Gray.
When it comes to affordable housing, there's 2 things to keep in mind. What's causing one part of the issue now is the cost of building in the city of Lynn Haven. While it's not outrageous, but when you have to have a permit, $10,000, $13,000, $15,000, it is cost prohibitive. Another factor that may come into play in the near future, because the commission and mayor is all about passing the International Property Maintenance Code. If that's passed, it will make it harder for the landlords to make a profit and therefore making housing affordable. The citizens of Lynn Haven do need help, and the government should be about helping the people making housing more affordable, not imposing more fines, more restrictions, and to make it less affordable. We need to do everything we can to allow people to pay the bills and for the housing.
All right, Sam.
All right, so to answer that question, I think the first thing we need to start with is really digging into the red tape laws on what makes it difficult to build. There's 2 aspects of it. There's the cost of the buyer, but there's also the cost of the builder. And when things are expensive for the builder, who do you think is going to pay the cost? They're not. The buyers are. So, we are limited with some things, with interest rates and things that are out of our control. But if we can make the system more streamlined to where it's easier for the builders to build without having to pay excessive fees, that'll also trickle down to the buyers, and it'll be a win-win between the builders and the buyers. So ultimately, we need to streamline the process where it's cheaper for everyone involved. And as interest rates come down, housing will come down. It's economics 101.
All right, I have a follow-up for both of you, and I'll start with you. Do you consider all the apartments that are going up across Bay County affordable housing? And how do you deal with that with infrastructure? Because, it's a denser population in one spot with so many people in apartment complexes.
Well, for me, I want to think outside the box on this. Coming from the Air Force, I know about basic allowance of housing, and a lot of things has to deal with. We have a large population of military, and so we need to start talking to the federal government if we can and figure out how to work out this BAH thing, because a lot of times the builders of the apartments take advantage of that, and we need to make sure that that's not happening.
Brian, 30 seconds.
Absolutely. I think the one key that we could concentrate on going forward is drainage ponds. I think drainage ponds is a better alternative. It's a more permanent solution. One difficult problem that we have faced through the years is allowing builders to build in areas that were previously designated as off-limits, environmentally sensitive areas, such as the area next to Mowat Highlands. It was never going to be built on. Now it's built on. Now we have problems. Our infrastructure needs to be worked on before we consider more and more development.
All right, Sam Peebles, you go first on the next question. One of the biggest issues, facing Lynn Haven is stormwater runoff. While it's being addressed since Hurricane Michael, there's still room for improvement, obviously, and it's expensive. Residents are now taxed. You have to use that word because it's a tax of sorts with an annual assessment fee to pay for upgrades. Every homeowner's paying a different amount. Do you agree with the way the city chose to impose the fee? Do you think it's fair or there's a better way?
I do think it needs to be relooked at. I'm not a huge fan of it. I understand why it happened, but I think there's other ways to do it. And of course, fixing flooding does take money, but I think there's ways that we can get creative to earn that money that the taxpayer doesn't have to pay. We can have corporate sponsorships with companies that want to advertise. We've got all these great sports parks that we can put banners up every single year, charge a certain fee every year. That's money that can go towards stormwater. We can name the fields, sponsor the fields. We can even, give incentives to businesses for building retention ponds on their businesses. There's ways that we can help with stormwater that doesn't tax the citizen, and I want to explore those options because it's not our fault that it's flooding.
Brian.
Absolutely. They've been kicking the can down the road for a long time, and as I understand it now, DEP is involved because our wastewater treatment plant is above 75% capacity, and we definitely need to have a look at that. Why should we pay consultants to do something that Lynn Haven can do for themselves? I have never seen a government program that gets cheaper over time. Maybe the city can do more of their own grant writing instead of contracting it out to engineers that work for the benefit of an engineering firm. Maybe we should have in-house engineers, one or two, and then contract out what we need. The city of Lynn Haven has some very smart people. We have some awesome people working for us. The department heads just need to be turned loose to do what they know they need to do instead of being constricted. And it's hard enough for people to pay their bills. We need to make a way to make it more affordable and to more fair and equitable. As it stands right now, the pervious situation with pervious versus impervious, why don't we just do through the tax assessor's office and come up with more fair and equitable way instead of just across the board hammering everybody all the time.
All right, you didn't tell us how you felt about the annual assessment fee.
The annual assessment is definitely necessary for sure, but it needs to, as I said, it needs to be more fair and equitable.
All right, just as a follow-up, 30 seconds. Sam, you mentioned corporate sponsors. Is that really viable when you're talking about needing millions for a city the size of Lynn Haven?
Well, I'll answer it this way. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So every dollar counts. So every dollar that we can bring in from corporate sponsorships is a dollar that me and you don't have to pay.
All right, 30 seconds, Brian. You had mentioned in a different forum about potentially bringing that 1% sales tax. Did I understand that correctly to Lynn Haven?
Well,
like Panama City and Panama City Beach have?
I understand that people have an easy answer for that. No, the state says you can't have a sales tax, and that's true, we can't. But the city of Panama City and the city of Panama City Beach have come up with a special assessment tax for a zone or a period of time or what have you. And maybe Lynn Haven could do something like that to make it more affordable for the homeowner instead of just hammering them every time something comes down the line. We can make it affordable so everyone can have skin in the game and everyone can pay into it instead of just the homeowners every single time.
Okay, 1 minute for you, Brian. The next question. The last 4 years have been tough for Lynn Haven residents, not just because we've been recovering from Hurricane Michael, but also because of the FBI corruption investigation that led to the indictments and arrest of several people in the city. There's still an ongoing trial. We're waiting for that final trial for developer James Finch. How do you feel about that FBI corruption investigation or about how it's turned out and what's taken place and transpired in Lynn Haven? Do you think we're past that?
I would like to think that we are, but something tells me we're not. The main focus of the FBI at this current time seems to be a supposed $5,000 check to pay a city commissioner when the vote's already been taken, and it was unanimous. What happened to the $5 million that's missing? I'm sure there's a lot more money if you look at what FEMA reimbursed Lynn Haven, what FEMA is going to be reimbursed Lynn Haven, and what has actually been done from alleged work orders that were turned in that weren't never done. I mean, there's plenty to go after. The focus of the current federal investigation is limited in scope, and by this time, they should have plenty of evidence and plenty of other people to look at to really find out where the money is.
Sam, 1 minute.
This time, I'm just gonna be honest. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. You know, I don't work for the FBI. So, as a commissioner, all I can do is hope that the justice system did what they were supposed to do. So, were they guilty? Were they not? That's up to the justice system. That's all I can really say about that. What I can say is that talking to citizens across the city, I do think that we are starting to move past it. Me and my team probably knocked on 2,000 doors easily. And very, very few people brought that up as something that they were concerned about. They were more concerned about a lot of other things, stormwater, sidewalks, communication. The FBI case really was not a large topic of discussion. So I do think that the city is moving forward with that, and I'd like to see that us as a team can continue to move that way.
All right, quick follow-up on that. Are you in favor of still hiring Finch Construction for future projects?
Am I in favor? I would probably give it some time to marinate. We don't have enough answers yet, to be honest with you. So really, I would give it some time, for sure.
How do you feel?
Well,
30
if
seconds.
everything's fair and above board, I don't see any reason why he should be excluded only because his last name's Finch and only because certain people may have had problems with him in the past. I mean, if you look at the city building that we're building now, it's, I don't know, $22 million and rising with cost overruns and change orders and that sort of thing, when his project behind Walgreens could have been done for $15 million, reimbursed by FEMA, and already been done. So there's no reason to exclude somebody simply because of bad blood in the past or because you think something's going on. If everything's above board, he should be able to compete like everyone else.
Okay, one of the controversial subjects that came up in another race was about the police department. Are you in favor of keeping Lynn Haven Police as is, or would you be in favor of disbanding it and bringing in the Bay County Sheriff's Office instead? 1 minute.
I'm absolutely positively 110% in favor of keeping the police department. When I talked to Chief Ramey, he let me know, or I understand that there's probably a 2-minute response time right now, and I have had the fortune of utilizing their services. There's some very fine men and women in the Lynn Haven Police Department, Fire Department, and City Hall across the board. We, as Lynn Haven City, is safer than probably 90% of the cities in the state of Florida, and I think we should keep moving in that direction. Nothing's perfect. There's no such thing as no changes that need, but with the right leadership that we have in place and the right budget, and I just think we should keep the Lynn Haven Police Department as is because it's working very well for citizens of Lynn Haven.
How do you feel about the police department?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Brian there. We have 38 police on staff. That's not including the 12 admins that are part of the staff. And for the price that we're paying them, we would only get about 4 from the sheriff's office. And we are top 10 safest city in the state of Florida. And if you go by capita, according to the data, we're top 10 safest city in the nation. So it's being done well, and it's being done well cost effectively. So ultimately, it's a win-win. We're safe and we're getting our money's worth. So I think it's running great.
All right, next question, 1 minute to answer. And Sam, we'll start with you. All politicians say they're going to be transparent and have integrity. And they're great words, but what do they really mean?
Integrity means doing what's right even when no one else is watching. So in the Air Force, we say integrity first, and that means you do what you're supposed to do even when no one's watching. And of course, these are buzzwords. Transparency really means we need to get everything out there to the public the best that we can. There is the sunshine law in place, but I would like to see things more available, public database. I would like to move into the future to where we can move stuff to a public database online that we can have public's records request for next to nothing. I'd like to see the cost go down on those a little bit, but I understand that it takes a lot of time, and that's why there's that fee. But if we get it online and it's transparent to everybody, they don't have to spend time anyways. So it's a win-win. It's more transparent, and it's going to be more cost effective over time.
All right, Brian, what do those words mean?
Absolutely. Coming as a senior NCO from the Florida Army National Guard and having been overseas for 4 combat deployments, I've known good transparency and bad transparency. Good transparency, if I'm fortunate enough, Lord willing, and the citizens of Lynn Haven elect me, I would like to have a coffee with the commissioner at least once a month to get to know the people and make sure they have an opportunity to tell me what's on their mind. And there's no such reason why Lynn Haven can't be like Callaway and have a line item budget item to where you know what every employee makes in the city of Lynn Haven. There shouldn't be a question of, well, I wonder how many people make over $120,000 a year. Well, I wonder how much we're paying for this. I wonder how much we're paying for that. We should have transparency, and it should be above board. It should be clear. You shouldn't have to do a lot of research to figure out, well, there's no answer. And as far as integrity goes, I promise to under-promise and over-deliver, because your word is your bond, and what you do is what you do, not say you're going to do.
All right, let's move on to traffic. It's getting pretty congested around the whole area around Bay County, but Lynn Haven has a major thoroughfare, Highway 77/Ohio Avenue. What will you do to ensure that the roads are maintained and infrastructure can handle the growing population?
Well, the first thing we need to do is coordinate better with state, county, and the Department of Transportation, because sometimes it's simply a matter of, well, we don't know because we simply don't know. The Transportation Planning Board, Transportation Safety, I mean, we should be asking the questions that need to be asked, because a lot of citizens I've talked to when I walk around neighborhoods, and some of the people that walk around with me, man, they want to know, well, how come we can't time the traffic lights down 77 like they do in Alabama or like they do down in Destin? Well, I've been to Alabama and Destin, and they have some rough times too, but there's no reason why we can't get with DOT and coordinate a little better and get the traffic lights synced a little better. And I think that would go a long way to alleviating some of the problems in 77, because we know a lot of people come south in the morning times, north in evening times. It's not hard to figure out, and it shouldn't be a Rubik's Cube to figure it out. It's not a Rubik's Cube. We should be able to figure it out.
Brian, what about traffic?
So,
Sam.
Oh, compliments
Sam,
already.
Sam and Brian. Sorry.
So ultimately, this comes down to communication both ways. We as commissioners need to communicate up the chain, because Ohio Avenue/77, ultimately as the city, we can't do that on our own because we do not control that. But we can communicate up. But at the same time, we need to be able to communicate down, because the citizens are going to come to us first asking these questions. And if we don't communicate up, we won't have the answers. So it's going to create frustration. So we need to communicate with the county, state, to be able to figure this stuff out. Advocate for home rule so that we have the ability to change more things, so that we can communicate to the citizens what's happening, and also to help the state and county fix the traffic issues, because let's be honest, they are really bad.
All right, we're more than halfway through. So at this point, what I'd like to do, and I believe you get to go first this time.
Sure.
Lost my place. I want you to ask each other a question, and I'm only going to give you 30 seconds to respond. So, Sam, you ask Brian a question.
Sure.
And then Brian will ask Sam.
Okay. Brian, I just want to ask you, man, what was the most fun thing that happened while we were running this race together?
Oh, man, there's so many. I mean, we have a good time just getting out there, meeting people and talking to people and just figuring out what's true and what people say is true. Sometimes it's a big difference. Sometimes it's a small difference. But, man, the people of Lynn Haven are great. As I say, I've been here since 65, and I went to Lynn Haven, Mowat, Mosley, the Florida State University. And, man, there's just some awesome people in Lynn Haven. And I've got to know some people that I didn't know before and reconnected with, like, you're my platoon sergeant in 1982. You've been here this whole time? I didn't know.
All right, question for Sam.
Well, Sam, golly, when it comes to family, what's the best part about Lynn Haven as far as family activities and things to do in Lynn Haven?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, Lynn Haven is known for being the family city, and it's obvious we've got the best parks I've ever seen in my entire life. And we run, the concert in the park series. We have fireworks. We have all this stuff for families to do. And I mean, there's a reason all of us live here. We love Lynn Haven because it is a city for families, and I just want to continue to be a champion for our city.
All right, now you both have full-time careers, you both have families. How are you going to give time and dedicate to being a city commissioner in Lynn Haven if you're elected?
Well, thank you, Amy. I'm fortunate enough to have a position with the Veterans Administration where I work 10 hours a day, 4 days a week. So I'll have one day dedicated per week to city business and flexibility to be able to work around what I need to work around. Sometimes it's hard because I know work schedules and I know that people, hey, we need to have both meetings at 6 o'clock in the evening. Well, that would be a good idea. Maybe more people would come. Oh, no, I think we should have them at 9 o'clock in the morning. And what's the answer? I don't know. Right now we have one of each, but maybe if we move both of them to the evening, maybe more people could come out and maybe we can take care of this problem that we have of apathy and only 20% of the voters actually voting in during an election.
All right, so for me, I want to make it to where we get more social media friendly. I mean, we're coming into an age that all ages use social media. So I'm going to be available 24/7 on social media. So if you want to reach out to me on social media. And then if you want to meet in person, I'll meet in person. And I know for me personally, from a career standpoint, I'm going to take a hit financially because I'm going to take a step back from some of my teaching duties so that I can spend more time with the citizens. So ultimately, I just want to be available. I want to be here to help. So I want to, whatever that way is that we can communicate, talk to me and let's figure it out, because I want to be available to you 24/7, 7 days a week. So whatever that is, whatever form of communication you want with me, let's have that form of communication.
Now, one of the referendums on the April election ballot was about term limits. It passed. It's already passed in Lynn Haven because, of course, this is going to be a runoff. But were you in favor of term limits for elected leaders in the way it's described as consecutive terms, 2 terms, and then somewhere down the road you could run for something else if you wanted to? But were you in favor of that, Sam?
So for me, ultimately, I was just pumped that the citizens got to decide. I love referendum questions because it allows the citizens to really take the R or the D next away from it and just have honest, true conversations about it. And it was a resounding yes. I voted yes. But the real caveat that I really like is that 2-year cool-off period. So if someone actually is a really good commissioner or mayor, they can run again in 2 years, and they will win if they were that good. So I just think that the way it was written was excellent, and I think that I'm excited that it was a yes, and I'm glad that people went out and made their voice heard. I think it passed with like a 90%.
Thank you. It is passed, and it is what it is, and we have to operate within a system. But it's good that we have opportunity to change it in the future. As far as the mayor position goes, 2 terms to be the mayor, and then that's it. That's probably a good idea. But as far as commissioners go, man, sometimes we have a hard time getting good candidates to run. This time and the last time I ran, we've had an exceptionally phenomenal pool to choose from. But the more restrictions you place on the good guys, maybe the not so good guys may rise to the surface. Yes, the citizens have spoken, and absolutely, that's what it's all about.
But how did you feel about it? Are you in favor of term limits?
I'm not in favor of term limits for city commissioners. Now, mayor, of course, but city commissioners, no, I'm not.
It would be one or the other for the whole city, I would imagine.
It would, but the way it was worded, you could have worded it for the mayor to have a term limit, but the commissioners not.
Okay.
I mean, it could have.
What's the difference?
Well, the mayor has more power than the commissioners do.
Well, they vote just like a commissioner.
They do, and they can't offer amendments and things like that. But
15.
I just think that having term limits on commissioners is, to me, not a good idea. But for the citizens of Lynn Haven, if that's what they want, that's what we'll do.
All right, but you were in favor of it.
Yes.
All right. How important is the environment in Lynn Haven? It's a big issue. How do you make sure our waterways, because we're surrounded by water, and outdoor areas stay pristine?
Well, the one thing that I would like to see changed is that it appears that although the city has done a great job, and I want to give them credit for that, there's been 17 miles of ditches dug. One thing that I've noticed when I've gone around and talked to citizens is that some of the areas, it was pretty evident that we did not go back and double check and make sure they were finished properly. But that comes down to funding sometimes. So it comes back to stormwater funding. If you don't have the money, you can't fix it, you know? So that's one thing I'd like to start implementing is kind of a checks and balances of going back and making sure that the work was done properly. That's not a stab in any way. I just think that that's a tool that we can put in our tool shed because we want to make sure that what we paid for.
How are you going to take care of the environment around Lynn Haven, Brian?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big proponent of taking care of the environment. And I think getting state grants to build more drainage to drain into the estuaries is not a good idea. Maybe more ditches, as Sam said, is a great idea. I think digging more ditches and digging them deeper in certain areas would definitely help. Having more drainage areas, more drainage retention ponds. There's a park that they're proposing now down Delaware at the end behind Mowat Highlands. I think that's a great idea. That would give us a large area to allow the water to go there instead of into the estuaries. I met with a couple of citizens who have had work done by the city contractors, and when they get done, the ditches below and the culverts above. I'm not an engineer. I don't know which way water flows at times, but it just seems to me that we need more quality control to make sure that when it's done, it's working like it's supposed to instead of worse.
Let's talk about incentives to offer businesses to locate in the city of Lynn Haven. Panama City residents just recently passed a property tax referendum to give incentives to incoming businesses they say will help their community. Do we have any in Lynn Haven, and are you in favor of adding incentives?
I absolutely am in favor of properly utilizing incentives to attract businesses because Lynn Haven needs businesses. But at the same time, we don't need to do this at the detriment of the existing businesses. We got some great businesses. We got Beef O'Brady's, we got Victoria's Last Bite, we got Simply Seafood. There's a lot of businesses in Lynn Haven that are doing the right thing. And if you want to incentivize businesses to come in, we should make it fair, we should make it limited, and we should also follow up to make sure they're doing what they say they're going to do. I know one problem that the county had, this company came in, they gave them so much money up front. Oh, we're going to have 100 jobs. Then all of a sudden, where'd the jobs? Jobs didn't exist. Jobs didn't come to fruition. The company left. We should definitely not put it all front load everything and to make sure that they're doing what they say they're going to do.
I think the county changed the rules after that happened.
I believe they did.
All right. How do you feel about it?
Incentives. Yeah, I think incentives are an excellent idea. In fact, that's one of the reasons I wanted to run years ago. I've talked to my friends about it for years. Is I think really where we need to put the incentives is on unique businesses that are not in Panama City, that are not in Panama City Beach, because you're going to be bringing in revenue from Southport. You'll be bringing in revenue from Panama City. If we bring in businesses that we already have in Panama City, that's cool and that's great. Please come to Lynn Haven. But we're probably just going to be serving Lynn Haven residents. If we have businesses that are unique, that bring business from all across the county, that's more money. That's a win-win. We're getting money from Lynn Haven citizens. We're getting money from citizens outside of Lynn Haven. It's a win-win. I think if we could shift kind of where the incentives go to, I think ultimately it comes back to economics. We'll get more money that way.
All right, I'm going to give you both a chance to talk about something maybe I haven't asked. Sam, is there a subject you wish I had brought up that you'd like to mention?
I don't know. This has been awesome because we got asked a lot more questions in this one than we did in the other ones.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just ecstatic to answer all these questions. So,
is there a subject matter that's important to you in Lynn Haven?
The biggest one was flooding. I mean, with my background in risk management, I'm very passionate about figuring out what the priorities are and putting the money where the priority is. So if flooding truly is a priority like it should be, which it is, that needs to be our main focus for funding. And we need to figure out the best way to get that funding, whether that's grants, corporate sponsorships, or whatever. And we need to make sure that the citizens are not being taxed heavily because it's not their fault. I mean, I grew up in Lynn Haven. We need to get some more trees in Lynn Haven so we lost 72% of our trees. That the tree canvas is a huge issue. It makes it where the flooding comes down way too quick. We've got to fix flooding. And there are ways to do it, and we need to work together as a team, whether as the commission and as the citizens, work together as a team and fix this flooding issue.
Something I missed?
One thing that's near and dear to my heart and a lot of citizens that I've talked to is this, the commission and the mayor now have a really positive feeling about the International Property Maintenance Code. P.J. O'Rourke once said, "Is it really best giving money and power to government is like giving whiskey and car keys to teenage boys? They're simply not responsible. Is it a good idea to have a citywide HOA in Lynn Haven? It just doesn't seem reasonable. Are the benefits for the city? Oh, yeah. Government's never met a tax they don't like. It's not their money. That they don't care where it goes. For the citizens of Lynn Haven, absolutely not. People don't want to live in an HOA. You know why? There's more rules and there's more expenses. At a time when we're trying to pay our bills and we're trying to put gas in the car and put food on the table, why put more fines and more liens? Why is it that 108,000 communities in the United States and only 600 use parts of the IMPC? One city in Frisco, Texas says violations of this ordinance, you're going to get a $2,000 fine, up to a $2,000 fine, and every day it goes up. Why do we need to hammer people? Why can't we help them?
I'd like to end on a positive note, so I'm going to tell you there's a lady on Facebook and says, I sure wish you two gentlemen would have run for separate seats. I think you're both great.
We talked about this.
The only problem is we can only pick one of you. So, Brian, I'm going to start with you and give them 1 minute to tell people why you're the better choice.
I agree 100%. It's a win-win situation. I have more age. As you can tell, I'm not as youthful as I once was. Got a lot of experience. And we both have some similarities, but we both have some different ways to go about doing the same thing. Do I think we both love our city? Yeah, we do love our city. I love our city. I love the people in our city. And I would live nowhere else. I've had plenty of opportunities through the years, through different jobs, to move to other cities, but I chose to stay in Lynn Haven. Would it be nice that if we had one city hall in the middle of town and everything was there like it used to be? Well, that would be great. But it's not that way. We have to control growth, and we have to make sure that the citizens of Lynn Haven have a seat at the table. All
right, Sam, why should voters choose you?
Well, I think you should vote for me because I come with fresh ideas, and I want to help Lynn Haven be a city that my grandchildren will be proud of. And I know that I'm young. I'm 33 years old, but I will say this, Jesus Christ was 33. And I will say this, that growing up, I had a plaque in my house that Abraham Lincoln said, it's not the years in your life that matter, it's the life in those years. And I've had a lot of life in these years, and I'm planning for the next 4 years for the city of Lynn Haven to have a lot of life in those years. And I'm educated, I'm smart. I don't like tooting my own horn, but here we are doing it, so I have to. I think I'm the better choice just because I do think I have the best ideas.
All right, Sam Peebles, Brian Gray. Gentlemen, we thank you both for coming in and answering all of our questions tonight. We appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
A quick reminder to Lynn Haven voters, by the way, this is at large, so everyone gets to vote if you're a registered voter. Early voting is set for next week, Monday, May 8th through Friday, May 12th, 8 to 5. Early voting is 8 to 5 at the Lynn Haven Senior Center on Pennsylvania Avenue. Election Day, Tuesday, May 16th, is also at the Lynn Haven Senior Center. Polls on Election Day are 7 to 7. We want to invite you to vote. Don't forget to vote. This is the Lynn Haven Commission Seat 1. Now, tomorrow night, we invite you to join us for an interview. You'll get to meet the two men who want to be the mayor of Panama City, incumbent Mayor Greg Brudnicki and his challenger, Dr. Michael Rowan. And that will be right here on 13 Now, starting at 7 p.m. Central Time. Again, gentlemen, thank you. We wish you both the best of luck, and we'll see you tomorrow night.